everyone, today we're going to discuss 5 picking patterns to get you playing melodically right away. Recently I did a video where I discussed one picking pattern inside of a scale fragment, and it was received very well and people asked for more. So today we're going to go a little bit more in depth and look at 5 different patterns that you can use. So when I'm talking about a scale fragment, I simply mean a piece of a scale. If this is your entire scale, that's a 3-note per string major scale. A fragment of that might be just the final 2 strings. And it's always a good idea to practice things in fragments and not necessarily just practice playing a huge scale like that up and down. You want to make everything that you're working on a little more finite, a little more controllable with not only your brain, but with your fingers. When you're soloing, I'm sure you don't want to play through a scale fragment like that. It's not very interesting, it's not very melodic. So you do need to teach yourself ways to get through scale fragments and or patterns in a melodic fashion. We've all looked at other players and asked ourselves, how in the world did they play that line? Where did that come from? How were they able to improvise that? Well, it's because they've played through that pattern of notes before and they're able to pull it out in an improvisational setting. It doesn't mean what they're playing is completely rehearsed. It just means that you do need to teach your brain and your fingers a certain way of playing through patterns so that it's functional for you. These examples we're using are going to be in the key of G, and not only will they be on the screen in tablature, but if you want to download the entire file for yourself, you can hit the link in the description below and get a PDF or a guitar profile. The first example is what I call running and walking. If you're going to play through a scale fragment and you always do it with every note of the same value, you're not really exercising anything rhythmic here. So let's make it a little more interesting, and we're going to run up the fragment and then walk down it. And I'm just going to play through the first measure here. Now with all of these fragment practices, I highly encourage you take them through other fragments on the same set of strings, and that's what I've done in the second measure. Here, we've shifted up to the next scale position. And so on and so forth. You can continue on up the neck. Obviously, you want to take these examples and work on the strings where you perform the worst. So if you're really bad down here, then that's where you want to practice it. You could take these scale fragments backwards too, so anything that I've written down, you could just simply reverse it. That sort of thing. The next fragment ascends through the first 6 notes there and then begins sort of an interesting turnaround. So that's across 2 measures the way I've got it written, but you can practice this any way you want. What I find interesting about it is it gives you another method of alternate picking practice, and that is when you do the entire pattern, the final note, or the note where you'd actually be starting the pattern over, is on an upstroke. So then you do the entire thing beginning on an upstroke, and every subsequent pick stroke after that is the opposite of what you just previously did. So if that's not confusing, so downstroke, upstroke, back to down. So it's a complete circle if you want to practice it that way, or you can certainly obviously take it to the next fragment as I wrote on here. This pattern is definitely harder to shift to the next position. So not all these patterns are going to be super easy to do position shifts with because of the way it lands. And so on and so forth. You're actually hitting that same note twice if you're doing a position shift like that. Here it is played higher up on the neck in a different scale fragment. I really like that one because it kind of sort of feels like you're just going up and down a scale fragment, but you're not, and you're creating that nice kind of turnaround on top of it where you play this part twice in a row, and it just sounds great to me. Here's the third scale fragment, which gets us to start crossing back and forth between the two strings a couple of times, sort of like a pedal point, but that's more of what we'll do in the fourth example. So it sounds like this. And if I tie it into the rest of the example where I go to a different scale fragment, it would sound like this. And so on and so forth up the neck. I like this because you're crossing back and forth between those two strings and getting some good cross-picking practice there. And yeah, it works really nicely. But it's something that definitely takes those 6 notes and turns it into something quite creative to the ear. Fragment number 4 is kind of a play on the one we just did for number 3, and it's even more of a pedal point. A pedal point is this sort of thing where you have a repeating note. So that would be my pedal point. So in this example, fragment number 4, let me just play it for you. So kind of my pedal point in this regard would be this 5 right here, because I keep going back up to it with the other descending parts of the fragment underneath it. So if I take it to the next scale fragment, it would sound like this. And so on and so forth. Those are really awesome. I think they're really pleasant to the ear and definitely sound way more melodic than just your standard old scale fragment up and down. The last one here just takes your scale fragment and plays it in triplets. So we're going to kind of stair-step our way backwards through the fragment. Right away, by changing the rhythm, we took this and turned it into this. Taking the next scale fragment into consideration. And on and on. Practicing these fragments in this way is going to give your fingers a chance to play through them differently and memorize a certain way to go through these passages. And once you kind of get it with one fragment, it's so much easier to take it to the others. Just the idea of which finger to fire, so to speak, comes way more naturally once you get it down with one fragment and then move it to the next. Now, I could have written out fragments for every single scale piece here. There's no need to, though. You just get the pattern down and apply it to the next set of 6 notes that you want to use. This is going to ensure that you're able to pull these sort of passages out in your playing when you want to. So when you're improvising, obviously you want to sound creative, you want to sound inventive, and you want to do things that are spur of the moment. But don't hesitate to learn patterns like this that are going to ensure you have the technical facility needed to get through some interesting passages, to sound more melodic, and go from point A to point B in a much more interesting fashion. If you enjoyed today's content, please make sure to hit that like button. It really does help the channel out. Don't forget to go down in the description below and click on the link for a free Guitar Pro or PDF tab of everything that we did today. It's just much easier to print that out or put it on your screen and run through those every day in some organized fashion. If you would like to support my channel, not only can you shop through the affiliate links down below that I've provided, but you can go to patreon.com/Paul Warren Music. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.